Well, first of all, welcome everybody to this Hangout. And like I said before, in this Hangout, we'll do hands-on stuff. Like we will increase the functionality of the Lost and Found project. And while we are doing that, you can look over the shoulder of Roman's. So if you haven't done already, click on Roman's thumbnail down there in the list with all the users. So your screen doesn't change all the time. Just click there once until you see the blue rectangle around it, so you always see Roman's screen. And while he will enhance the functionality of Lost and Found, you can look over his shoulders, and probably many things that we do you will want to achieve in your projects as well, and simply can adapt them. Furthermore, after we did a little bit of coding, 1, 2, 3 more functionalities, you can ask questions about special things that you might find difficult to achieve in your own projects, and Romans will happy answering them. Will be happy answering them. So, as you can see, now we are looking at the main screen of the Agile of the Lost and Found project, and we have already the report a lost item page. We have an admin page. If you are an admin, you only see that. And I think, Romans, well, the first thing would be maybe a page to edit my own user profile.
Okay, Armin, can you just go quickly through the project just in case someone...
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure. So I can explain to you. So we have a pretty simple database, which is looks like this. So we have user, item type, and a country. In item we have a field which is called isAdmin. Oh, sorry, that's in user. There it is in isAdmin, and we also have built the way how you could log in. So we have a login page in here, and you can log in as an admin, and then you get access to the special admin page, which I cleaned up a little bit since our last episode. And so we have just the 4 cross in here, and the first is a list of users. Second is list of items, and then I added a country admin and an item types. Is it okay before we move forward? I'll explain one small change I did on this admin page. And as you can see, if I now click that page again, what happens? It preloads the first, second, and the fourth tab, but and I can now quickly click through them, but the third tab with countries is loading on demand. So when I click that, it takes just a second to load it, and here it is. It is because we have a lot of countries, so I moved that to a separate page, and also as I move back and forth, it is actually quietly reloading that page. This is the functionality of jQuery UI, and to be honest, it's I think it's much better to use on-demand loading in tabs. So I suggest you to look into that and implement that as well. This is how it's done. So when I'm adding a tab for the country admin, I'm using a different method here, add tab URL, and the first argument is an actual URL produced by this method, and that's a label. And finally, this page could be implemented either inside of the page, like a subpages in here, or as a separate file in the file system. I would suggest you to go with a separate file for now. Later we're gonna have a special tutorial on the page and routing, and I will explain how subpages work. But from here you see it's pretty self-explanatory. I have page index and page country. So I have, if I go to admin as well, I'm seeing the index page. If I go to admin/country, I would only see countries. So that's that. This page is being opened inside this tab. So that's all I wanted to say before.
The only reason we did that was because this list is so long with the countries, and if this tab would always load when we open the admin tab,
yeah,
then opening the page would just take longer than it should. So this tab is only loaded when we actually click on it, and this is what add tab URL does. It does like adding a completely new page or a sub-page in this tab, and this is what it does. So when you have on your project some big listings, you have a tab, and one tab would show a big listing that takes a lot of HTML to load. You would probably do the same approach there as well. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm going to now log with a regular user, and Armin wanted us to create the page for user settings.
Exactly, just where I can change my email, my password, my first name, my last name, when I got married, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
You have to make a proper email, I think. It's demo@demo, or is it? Oh, I can't recall.
Okay. Me neither.
Hang on, I'll look it up in the. Give you a proper one.
I got in. Okay, it was
okay.
mail.com. Okay. So it says hello demo. Okay, and we want to have a separate page for the user preferences. Okay, let's start by adding one more item in the menu for when I'm logged in. Just put it in here. And to create a new page, empty page.
So this probably looks familiar to you. And the only thing we need to do is we add a form, we set the model of the logged in user, which is done through the API auth model, because there is the model of our user that is like logged in. And once the form submit button is pressed, and we have to add this button, I believe, then the form, with form update, everything is saved to the database, and we see a little message through the JS, like a little success message, but we don't have a button so far.
Oh yeah, let's add a button.
And of course, a user should not be able to set himself as admin, and this is where we slightly change the set model call and give a second argument where we list the fields that we actually want to be able to edit. And this will be like first name, last name, email, and password.
Email, okay. Okay, good. And as you can see, password is empty. It's not empty in the database, but I think I briefly covered how this model is being loaded, but I'll do it again. So in order to avoid requests being sent to database when I'm using authentication, what this authentication controller is using, it puts this model inside a session. It saves model of the user inside the session, and every time I send a request, it loads it from the session. So if I delete the user in database, it will not force me to be logged out, because it's simply not rechecking it every time. And when saving it in the session, for the security precautions, it empties the password field. Now, if I type password here and click save, it will actually save a new password for me, because in models we have a flag which is called dirty. And every time any field is being updated, the flag is set, and in this situation the new password is set. So when I save it, it will give me a new password in a database. Because
so in other words, the dirty flags makes sure that if something is not changed in a form, then the content of that field will not be like populated to the database. Only fields that change their value will actually been updated in the database. And as the password field has no content because it's like deleted in the session field, and we enter a password, so we changed it and it gets saved to the database.
Yeah.
As we can see here, 1, 2, 3. Well,
yeah,
let's add a second password field here, so that the user has to type in the password twice to make sure that he actually knows what he's typing there.
Okay. Yeah. So the forms initially they don't know anything about the model, but when we use set model, behind the scenes it initializes the controller, and the controller then does the population of the fields. It looks inside the model which fields are there. Are they supposed to be editable, and then also it looks at this array in here, and then it moves the fields inside the field. But we can also add field manually inside the form. It doesn't need to have model. And here the first is the type, password. Second is the name of the field, and finally the third is label. If I don't specify label, it will make label based on this name, simply by removing this separating with spaces and capitalizing. Okay.
So, and now we have to check in forms add submit that both the field password and password confirm have the same content. Otherwise the password gets not saved, and instead we'll show a little error message.
Okay.
And you can see that via the get method we get actually what has been filled out in the form, but probably you know that already.
Okay. Let's see if yeah, as previously, I always forgetting how this method is called. Yeah, it's not field error.
Hang on.
Yeah, how we should discover that? I know a lot of from my head, but not everything. I'll go to reference. Display error, I think that's the one for disable. Okay, display. Okay, just perhaps I will go a little bit deeper on what we're doing and try to explain how this actually is achieved. So if we look at the form here, the form is actually not refreshing the page. So there's a JavaScript class, sorry, JavaScript jQuery UI widget, which instead of submitting the form, it sends data using Ajax to the server, and the server then gives us a response. And I can actually look at the inspectors in here. So if I record the request, I see there was a request and this was the reply. So that the method I called it produced this output, and it caused the highlight and display of this error.
Very friendly. Should match.
The short.
Not must match, but should match. No, that's fine. Just kidding.
Okay. That's fine. That's all, yeah.
I have a question regarding. Can you go back to the source code, because that was not really clear to me. Like, will this form update now be performed or not?
Oh, right, yeah. So when we call display error, it's not proceeding further because it relies on the same thing what execute is doing, and
yes,
after this line, nothing will be executed as well. It produced this bit of JavaScript and it sends it back to the form, and then it stops execution. So it's not going further.
So because I was thinking, don't we need an else here? But okay, if it's, well, then it's of course it works like that. Okay. So our new password. This is now functioning. We can enter a new password.
I also want to show, there was Michael suggesting about the exceptions, and exceptions are as well can be supported here, and actually I like them better than this method, but because of this construction, if I throw exception, it will be caught by somewhere here. Well, let me do it anyway.
Yeah.
Throw. Okay, and there are a couple of exceptions we have. For user, that's the one we need to throw. So if I do it now, sorry. What was it about? 17. Oh, you're not telling me.
Oh.
Okay, so what happens now is the form was unable to catch this, so it went up, and the application caught this, and it displays a default error message. Because we are in the development mode, it shows me the message on the screen. Also, the reason why we're not doing the throw new exception and so on is because with this construction, it is possible to chain. And if I look at this exception, it has a set field method, just a setter getter, and I can use it here. Set field password. If I submit that again, it's actually passing this parameter, but no, it's not shown here. In order for form to catch that, instead of using is submitted, I need to use a different construction, which is on submit, and it has been introduced in recent versions only, because it primarily relies on closures, which is a PHP 5.3 feature, and I need to pass argument because form needs to be accepted like this. And other than that, it's precisely the same thing how it was before. So I'll refresh this, type, and now we get this error message. So now form actually got that, and it converted it into the message. It wasn't unable to match it against the field here. I'm not sure. I think it's a bug in 2.1, so in 2.2 it's already fixed, and it will properly highlight the field with the password. Okay, so that's exceptions, and a good thing about exceptions is that if we manipulating any models in here, and the model can throw exception, even though that it doesn't know about the existence of the form, it will be properly captured. Another thing is when we're calling form update, it will call the update on that particular save on that particular model which is associated, so this one, and if anywhere inside that save, yeah.
Roberts, you have a spelling mistake in if form get password with 2 S, please. 2 lines above. Yep.
Right. Okay. It wouldn't affect that at all. Okay. So if anything is to happen inside the model, such as before save or after save, if we throw an exception there, then form will be able to catch it inside this method, and again it will properly display it in a field. So that's a bit about exception and how we do validation inside either a page or a model.
So for the project to go on, should we return to if form is submit, like the old version where we just have this nice error message showing below the password field?
Okay. Oh. Well, let me. Okay. I'll try to preserve both copies as a comment.
Yeah. And we have to correct the password mistake in the first version.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's try and match the passwords. So demo. What does it say?
Nothing happened?
Yeah, it's okay.
Ah, okay.
I maybe misclicked. Okay. So where do you want us to head next?
So we already have a form for report a lost item. So maybe we can do one for a found item.
Okay. So all right, let's look into that. So in item we have action, which is lost. Do you think it should be called not the action but something else?
Yeah, action is not really the right thing. Is it? Well, what could it be? A state or
Michael knows the answer. No.
So how should we call this field? Because yeah, like this field action is determining whether an item is lost or found, and like action doesn't sound right for the
type.
Field name. What would be?
Yeah, we already have type.
Yeah, not a type too, because the item type would be an umbrella or something like that. It's oh god. Well, I think we shouldn't worry about it. Just like, leave it like action for the time being.
No, since we're starting to be more and more advanced in this, there's this thing. Let's say we rename that action into something else now, but we have loads and loads of code which address this field as an action.
Okay.
Good. What should
then it's the state. The state of the item is whether lost.
Yeah. But what I wanted to say is when you add a field inside a model, the name of the model field and the name of the database column is completely two separate things. They just happen to be identical most of the time. But when we work with that in the model, let's say I'll go back to item, and I will be adding this field state now. So it's a new field, but maybe all of my previous code is relying on that field being an action. So what I can do is I can type action and then state, and the first argument here is how the field in the model is going to be named, and the second is how it's going to be called in a database.
Okay,
an actual name, but I'm not going to do that. We will use state for now, and it just creates things confusing.
Should we make it? And can we give the type enum here as well?
And that would be either lost or found. Okay, so if we're reporting now, there is a state, we can choose state, and I can actually check if it's found. Also, it gives a selection of the users, which is not correct. The rest seems to be okay.
So here comes a major question. Should we have one page where you can report a lost or a found item by just selecting if you lost, if you found it or if you lost it, or should we make 2 pages? I think we can make 2 pages just for easier usability. It's nice to have 2 menu items.
Yeah, okay. I'm just want to see one thing. Yeah, you can actually do that.
But why have we now 3?
It's initial state. So if we don't have display, and there is empty, it can be empty.
Oh yeah, yeah. But well, we shouldn't have the initial state. It should be really.
No, we don't have that. If we go to radio button, it wouldn't have. So what I mean is those controls are actually looking at some of the properties of the field, such as mandatory would eliminate the empty option at all completely. And in our case, this it can be either lost and found.
Yeah, well, then to include that, let's make it easier then. So our page report a lost item. Let's rename that in just report an item, and on that page we can choose whether we want to report an item that is lost or found.
We have item lost at the moment and item found.
Yeah. Yeah, but we could do it on the same page.
Yeah, sure. Let's rename it into report. Report, like that.
Yep.
And I will rename the file as well. And in the front end I would need to change
report an item.
Okay, report an item, and here we are.
So, and here we then would say, using this nice, because the radio buttons look pretty nice for that, and we could enhance, we could make this feature.
Okay. Now sometimes the radio buttons is good for one place, but in another place we would have the drop down. How about we challenge ourselves and say, no, we don't want to modify the existing model, but in this particular case we want to have radio button. We want to create a radio button. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So what Agile Toolkit allows us to do is to create a model as an object using add, and then perform some additions and some of the modifications on that. So I can actually take state and change the display in here. I don't need to specify the form, I just need to specify radio, because we're only going to have a form here anyway. And then instead of using the item here, I need to use the object. And as you can see, it's radio button.
So how would you generally, or what would you recommend? If you do things like that, would those changes rather go into the model itself, or would you do it on a page?
Because this is a visual change, we might as well do it on the page level, but it's a question of whether or not we want this to be a project global or only on this page. Because if I'm an admin and I go into admin to edit items, I will still have this drop down there. It's up to the requirements. If requirements wants us to have this differently on the particular page, then yeah. Next, also let's specify the fields we'd like user to specify. Would like user to enter when he first.
Yeah, I think we should start with the state field.
Okay, yeah, agree.
On top. Then what was it? The name.
Title.
Titles.
Type. Like this.
Yes.
Okay, user.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, also we need to properly set the user here. And the way how we can do it is if we just take the model and set, such as user ID, and you already know where to get the user ID from. API.
And we're doing this to, again, the auth model.
That's the ID of the user, and is found by default, is not checked, so we're okay.
Yeah, and it's not shown anyway because in our array we didn't give that.
Do we need to ask description at this time? Should we ask about the description at this time?
Oh yes, absolutely. Why not?
Okay. And I think something is missing. So if I have misspelled anything in here, it's simply not going to show. It's not showing me an error. Item type ID. So this works like a filter, but if there's no matching field, it's not complaining. And we need description.
So somebody might ask now, we only gave the item type ID in the field in the drop-down menu. I see the proper names of the item type. Why is that?
You mean in the ID here? Okay.
Yeah, we don't see like the ideas of the item type, but we see the proper description of the item type. So this must have to do with the model probably where
we. Okay, so I'm going to peek a little bit behind the logic how the set model is working here. We'll look into the classes a little bit so we can start from the very beginning. So the form class is being separated into two actual classes. One is the form basic, the first class, and then form advanced. No, actually no advanced, it's the form basic.
I meant I didn't want to go into empty. Just how did we set our models so that the field is populated with the name rather than the ID in the drop down?
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to show how fields get their associations and how they're built, but we can skip that if you don't want.
Well, if there is anybody out there that wants to see it, just make a little chat line here.
Yeah.
Evert.
Of course, it's Evert. Okay. So first of all, when form is being when we're calling forms set model, there is a property here which can be on any view, and it's called DefaultController. If this property is set to anything, then this controller will be initialized and it will be in charge of linking a view with a model. And we can take a look at how it's being implemented here. Okay, do not confuse with this is backward compatible MVC form. This is controller underscore MVC form. And in here, first of all, we have dependencies. I think some of you guys had a problem when you try to use the display type, and then suddenly the grid is saying, I don't know how to display this type, or the form says that. This is associations where you can define how the display of the type, or how the type of the model field corresponds to types of form fields. Such as, if you get string, it's line, if it's a numeric, it's line, if it's money, it uses a line, and so on and so on. And the radio is using radio. And if we have, right, okay, let's move on. And the method import fields is going to go through all the editable fields looking at the action field, this is what we specified as a second argument to set model, and it is going to import them. There's a lot of logic in here, but what I want to point out is within this method it will look if the field is actually a reference, and if it's a reference it is going to create a new field and then call set model on that particular field to link it with a referenced model. Okay, so this is the key part in here. The second thing is if we go inside our item, and the way how we specifying this item type field, we don't use add field, but we use has1, and there is a type. So has1 actually adds two fields. One of them would be called type. No, actually first it loads the model type, looks at what the table looks like. Table is called item type. Then it goes back to item in here and creates two fields, item type and item type ID. ID will needs to be a physical field, and it should be present in a database, and it is. Over here we have item type ID, and the second one is a select, a subselect, which will help us to display this field on grids, lists, and so on. So okay, I don't have it in here, but if we would have a list of users, a list of items, it would also include the type without doing any subselects, and this is thanks to this line here. We have a class called field here, so that's I was already showing this to you. Possibly this is where we this is what being initiated for every field in a model, but there is another class which called field reference, and it extends field, and this is what will be used for has1. So whenever I call has1, it initializes this new type of field, and actually there could be different types of fields. They can be used, for example, when you adding images as a field. There's also a different field type. Okay, I'm not going to go deeper into this. I'm only going to say that this field carries along the class, the model class. So when form controller is connecting form with this field, it takes the model using getModel and puts that inside the form field. And the form field which is used is called a dropdown, and the class can be found in here. So that's the definition of a dropdown. So what happens? It then is going to call get input, and as you can see here, it relies on get value list, which in turn, you know, if you dig deeper a little bit in here, you will discover that it actually getting the results from the model. And there are layers and layers of functionality, and it might be interesting to Evert, but you don't need to know this initially. I don't expect you to understand all of this. All you need to know, and we want to hide this complexity from you, is that you can use has1 inside a model, specify the class in here, it will automatically link it, and I suppose the third argument in here defines which field to show in there. Let's see if we could show ID instead. Yeah, so now we select IDs of item type. So
default value for
yeah,
that
default is name, but we can redefine. Again, it looks in model type, and we only have name in here, and ID is actually being initialized in the parent. So ID field is always present in the model. Well, anyway, that's how this field works. There you go, a little bit of diversion, and let's get back on track and continue.
So, so that we now know, can you go back to the source code of the with the has one thing for a second? I just want to clarify one thing.
Yes.
To the yeah. So, as Agile Toolkit, like you said, when the has one type is made, it actually creates two fields, and one is called item type ID. So it expects that the field is called ID by default.
Yep. There was a question from Bob. He asked, can we use expressions? Absolutely, any field could be an expression in Agile Toolkit. You don't need to do anything fancy. For example, in here we have user. Okay, let me re-add a user temporarily inside here. User, and as you can see, it uses both the name and the surname. But inside our database, if we look at the users, those fields are separate, each being in their own column. Yeah, so Armin, Herstetter, Romans, and so on. So how is that happening? If we look into model user, the field full name is defined as expression, and it concatenates two fields. That's all we need to specify to Agile Toolkit. It will automatically figure out that it's expression, and when the field is referenced like that, it will probably plug it in. Okay, Armin, let's continue with.
Yes. So let's look at our report on item thing one more time. Like the website.
Yeah, Michael. Yes, you can use expressions anywhere in the CRUD, and they actually covered that in our tutorial today. So when I upload that, it will have a fair bit of expressions in there.
So I think we have everything in there that we would need, and we now should make like the state, the title, and the description needs to be mandatory.
Okay. One thing about mandatory fields. If you remember, inside item, we used to. Okay, I'll continue. So when we're defining the field, there is a flag called mandatory true. So we can set. But the thing is, it's up to the actual view to honor this. The model still can be created without the title. It will not throw any exceptions. However, if you use that with a field in here, let me try. It complains about the field not being set. Need title. Okay, so for example, if we're not displaying title in this form, then it will be able to save it without the title anyway. So if you want to absolutely make sure the title is specified, then you need to execute the action before save, and manually throw an exception if the title is not there. Yeah, Everett. Again, that's something which was fixed in the next version, so you can specify the true, and it would put a default message in there. Okay. Everett was asking about, does this work with multiple tables? connections like addresses has one neighborhood, which has one city, one country, and so on and so on. That was answered in a tutorial, but I'll do it anyway. When we're using has1, it introduces a subselect into our query, and subselect can return only one value. If we don't want that, and we want to have multiple fields instead, there is a different way to implement that. And this is this example here. So we were taking the item and we were joining that item model with the user and the country. From country we were exporting the code, from user we were exporting the first name and email, and those were importing inside a model as irregular fields again. So a regular field could be either a normal field, it could be a field with a different name, it could be expressions like you saw before, it could be created by has1, so be a subselect. And in this situation, the field such as first name, it's a proper field of the model item, but it's actually being loaded from the join table from the user. And still we can change it, save it back, work with it as with an ordinary field. Debug, how we debug that. Okay, the question is how we debug expressions and display it as native SQL. Okay, so I have a form here and I have a model. Model has some expressions. I could set the debug mode on that model like this, but it's not showing because it's not executing that model. And I could do try select try load any, which is a method which attempts to load any record from the database, and to do that it needs to produce a select. So there you go, there is this select. Yeah, and we're getting this error because I only changed this state inside my SQL admin, but I didn't synchronize with my database, which I need to do now. Okay, so that's the query. We can see this is the expression we talked about for the first name. There is this select in here, and because DSQL, again, which will be covered in our tutorial, because it's recursive, so we can place the SQL object inside another one and we properly build the queries. It allows us to have expressions inside another expressions, and they all properly render as a finished query. It makes it ideal for wrapping it into the new layer of functionality, which is a model. Okay, unfortunately I don't have the script. I actually might do for what Armin wanted to do us. Do you guys have any questions? You can turn your microphones in if you want.
Yes, Roman. This example you just said, there's of the has main address and states, countries, and etc. Is this example inside the Agile, or you say there's a video with it?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the question fully.
Where do I find this example with the has main? I mean, has one with multiple tables. connections.
Is it you looking for documentation or the
example?
Yeah, for the documentation and examples.
Okay. If you go into Agile Toolkit, inside documentation, we separate our non-relational models and relational models. You want to look into relational models. And inside here, you get the basic use, field types, interaction, and then there's a relationship between models. And it's a separate thing. One thing is relations and another is join. So they are described separately as well. So there is example for has one, how the book can relate to an author. You get explanation about the all the arguments here, as Armin was pointing out. So this is redefining the fields inside the book, and that's the field we need to display for an author. And also it goes a little bit deeper, I think, even by talking about dereferenced fields. So instead of having would be written by and written str, the two variables which will be created. And also it explains how you can traverse from one model into another. So you can have a book, and from the book you can traverse into author, and you get model for the author, do something with that author, and save it back. That's how you traverse. Okay. Finally, and next explains how you can define has many. Sometimes, in most cases, you would want to have it the mirroring. So if book has one author, then author has many books, and they kind of point to each other. Again, that's not mandatory. And you can also traverse in that direction as well. So in this example, we taking author and deleting all of his books. Delete all books for that particular author. So again, it will place limitation. It won't delete all the books, but only for that author. Yeah.
Okay, there's one question Michael asked about if you can use expression with CRUD.
What's the question?
If you can
yeah, I already mentioned that you can use, but expressions are read-only, so you won't be able to save them back. But they appear in a grid, you can see them. Do you want me to show example of that? Well, I can.
Well, we can. We have the.
Yeah, I'm not logged in admin, and now I'm too bothered to log out and try to remember passwords again. So I use just this. And yeah, so this is actually expression. So you get this is user ID. It just has the same description as this one. But the user has is expressed as expression here.
We have the expression full name, and this one is shown here.
And another thing I wanted to point out, if I would do the debug, and let me cut this off later on. You see there's quite a few subslegs going in there. What if I only need a title in this, and I specify title? What Agile Toolkit is doing, it automatically not including all those expressions and all those complex subselects in the query, just giving me the title because I only want title. And ID is there because it's a system field. So Agile Toolkit have this capacity of defining complex models and then just using the fields you need when it builds the query. Okay, that's it. Armin, welcome back, and can we continue?
Yes. So now that we can report items, we should have a page that shows us all items that are reported, and we should have an option on the page to show us the lost items and the found items. So I would suggest, why not make a page with tabs, where one tab shows the lost items and the other one shows the
okay,
found
should we
items.
create a page called items list?
Yeah, for example.
Okay, and you want to create tabs in here?
Yes, I'd say that's a nice way to and inside the tabs there could be then a grid,
okay,
or grid or a lister.
And do you want me to create a separate pages for the tabs, or do everything in single page?
Well, let's first do it on a single page.
Okay. So I'll try to get I again dig a bit deeper and explain a little bit what happens here. So if you know jQuery UI has this add-on called tabs, and you need a construction. It's pretty simple for that. So you need a div, and inside that I think was something like UL or Lee. I don't remember really, and then another div, and basically this becomes a tab header. This things on top. Handle, I call it handle, and this div will by default be hidden or shown depending on which tab is currently open. So when we adding this element tabs, like would like to see how it's how simple is the implementation for the tabs.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so tabs is less than 50 lines of code. And we have add tab in here and add tab URL. All they do is, and of course there is a template as well. This is how the template looks like. Every time we add a new tab, it will go inside the content as a separate div, and it will also initialize a new tab in here, producing a proper code for jQuery UI to convert those into dynamic tabs. And when I call add tab, it creates a new view element. That's basically a view. It used to be called HTML element, but now it's just a view, so it could be just view with a. And append does this into again a label, creates a label, and it returns to us this container. So when I call, when I add a new tab in here, this returns me a new view, which will be placed accordingly, and behind the scenes it will also create a new handle for, on the top. So I'll create a tab. Found
Items
and lost items. Okay, and you wanted to have a list, but do you want to have a grid or do you want to have a custom list with custom template?
Oh, well, I think a grid will do, just a normal grid.
Okay.
I think.
Item found items and the lost items. Okay, we don't have those classes yet, but I'm going to create them. Just another note about why we need to have so many models for a single table. And the models in Agile Toolkit, they represent use cases, they not represent tables. There's a business logic behind that. And when we're showing found items, if we think about that as a use case, it's a completely different set of data than what we have in the table. So why should the person who is building the UI worry about what kind of fields or what kind of states they need to be matched? Why not just create a model for him? And yeah, if you have two guys in your team, it's really efficient if one of them works on the models and another guy works on the UI. And this is how they can connect and keep doing what's necessary. Okay, so I'm extending from item, therefore I don't need this property here. It's already set in the item. All I need to do is add condition, state should be found, and the
Found needs an N instead of an R.
And exactly the same thing for lost, except that it should be lost here and here. And we need to add the link in there. Or should we put it on a welcome page?
We could no, the welcome. No, put it on a new page. The welcome page should. I have something different for that.
Okay, so it's items list. I'll just call it list for now. Okay, I made a mistake. They're both on the same page. Right. Is it okay if I make them CRUDs for now, so we could?
Yeah. Ever just said we could one make like a grid, and the other one he would like to see a custom list.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Just for the purpose of showing different varieties.
Okay, I'm going to log out and go into my admin. I'm missing some admin functionality. Then go inside item list, and right now the state is empty. We added a field, but the state is empty. So I'm going to set a couple of items as lost, but then yeah, some will be found. This will be found. Okay, now I can go back to my list, and found item is just one, and we got the 3 lost items with a lot of fields in here. Okay, so when we building a custom view for showing an item, let me go back to the reference first and just show you the class hierarchy for our views. There's controllers, models, and the views. Yeah, so it looks like this. We have a view, which is generic view. Then we have a lister, which is able to repeat a portion of a template as many times as necessary to show all the elements. And this is probably what we're going to use. We have complete lister, which is like a lister, but it supports a little bit more features and more enhanced. And then finally we have a grid basic coming out of this, so it builds on top of list. In a way, list of elements is compatible with grid. For example, you can have a pagination on your custom list, even though it's never meant to work together. I mean, never built to work with your list. It can. Yeah, and the menu you see on top also is implemented through complete lister. Let me show you that this one is also the lister. So yeah, it repeats elements, as you can see. So it's really easy to use. Let me start by changing this into lister and see what's gonna happen. Nothing. Next thing, I need to specify to this lister my custom template, and that's a 4th argument. I need to use arrays in here, and I'm specifying the file name, which is going to be let's say view or list items. And next I'm creating the templates. List items HTML. I'll just add test for now to see what happens. List.
Evan says
yeah,
you misspelled template.
I hate it. I'll quickly go to command line and fix it. Okay, and you see the test being repeated 3 times. Now, Agile Toolkit has a built-in template parser which called SMLite, and what it can do is it substitutes tags. For example, I can say first sort of a listing items, so it's title. I'd like to put here. Okay, and I can either make a self-closing tag like this. Yeah, you can see the titles being in there before test, so it prepends. Let me make it a little bit fancier. How about I do div? I'm not really good with HTML, but this is what I can come up with. Float left with okay, the title, this finished, and then we should put a description in here, and then div finished. And now we have this custom template for the list, which I just built. Hooray! Now its possibilities are endless with this one, so we can create many different cool things.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you can now put your HTML knowledge into practice and build your own lists. One thing I'll mention to you before you dash away and work on that is a complete lister. Complete lister. The difference between lister and complete lister is lister is really primitive. It will just take this and repeat many times. Complete lister, though, it requires a bit more tags in our template. So it requires rows and then row inside. Row is closing, and then so does rows. I can close tags like this. I don't need to write it. From the first impression, it looks exactly the same, but why is this important? I can put something around the whole thing, like I don't know, maybe let's say items like this. So items is repeated only once, and then the contents inside rows is repeated several times. Another question you might have is, why do I need both row and rows? And the reason is because your designer probably wouldn't just give you a template with a single item, and he will give you with 5 items or 3 items. So you probably would put something put that, copy paste that into the template, put the tags inside the first one, but the rest they can actually stay there, and it's not affecting the way how it's being displayed. So anything can be in here, because you see in Agile Toolkit what we're trying to do is we're trying to do as less as possible changes inside a template which designer gave us. So if a designer gave us a code which looks like this, we would put the tags in, but we'll try to avoid changing any HTML produced by designer. For that reason, tags can have default values. So maybe the initial value here was car keys, and now we're replacing that. But we'll get back into this in a separate tutorial. I think that should get you excited about this prospect. One other thing is because now we have a separate view which displays items so nicely, how can we isolate that into a separate class? And this is what I'd like to do next, if that's fine. Okay, yes. So I'll create inside lib folder called view, and then item list PHP. I don't have macro for this. View item list extends. Okay, and in order to set a default parameter for the fourth argument, I need to redefine function default template to return the exact same array as in here.
Why is it an array, by the way?
It's if it's not an array, it will look inside the template of its parent view, parent object, and will try to cut a block from there. Okay. Kind of difficult to explain, but let's say if you have a page with lots of stuff in there, you could say this is the content of the page, and when you're adding a view to replace this content, it will use the previous it will use the markup inside that block as its own template. So we don't create template for page and then a separate template for the content. We just have the template for the page, and it can be applied both on page and on the content inside of it. But we'll get there. So now I don't need this anymore, and I need to specify item list. So okay, sorry, view item list. What I'm showing here is a really basic refactoring you need to keep doing inside your project to keep it nice and organized. So I had a bit of presentation logic, and I moved that into my my separate view, and now instead of using grid, I'm using my own view, and it, as you can see, it's pretty much identical, and I don't need to worry about the presentation of that. And it has this nice template in here. So by that I can add additional views, and they are extremely portable, just as grid is. Would work with different models, such as I could actually move it in here and use it with found item. They're not non-conflicting, so you have items in here, a couple of items in here. Works perfectly. Okay. So that's views, and those are custom views.
Great. Well, I think we did quite a bit now with Lost and Found, and we showed many examples. I have to get away now for an hour, but surely enough, I think the people in the Hangout will have questions, maybe on their own problems that they have, own things that they want to achieve, and are not sure exactly how they do that. Okay. And if Romans has the time, he'll be happy to help you.
Okay,
with that.
So let's. If you have any more suggestions, what we can do with our Lost and Found project, we want all of you to have as much as much influence on the project as Armin has, and Armin has come up with a couple of suggestions. But you can do as well, or if, yeah.
And also, as it's available on GitHub, if you have some fancy stuff you would like to include there, just get the latest master, and I think Romans is just like making a new one, making a new commit, and then you can work on it and
yeah,
and come up with your own suggestions, maybe new functionalities.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that now. So if you have it, you can use it.
Is that now a new branch?
No, that's in master. So that goes in master. Yeah, we created a couple of branches for the second tutorial, for the third tutorial, and what we have in here now is going to be. Let me actually create that. So it will be Hangout 6. Yeah. Okay.
Which is now basically the same as
yeah, for now. Master will continue forward. Yes?
Romans. I think if it's quick, and I think it would be nice if we have like a page which we could look for a lost item and inform or whatever, saying that, well, this item is mine, or, you know.
Claim an item.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think we should approach that from a database perspective?
Yeah, well, good thing. I think we have to think about how would a user actually approach this. Imagine you would see on the page, oh, they found my item, now what would I do? And I think that what the user should be able to do is like sending a message to the guy that found the item and saying, yeah, this is mine. So probably within the list that we have now at the moment, there should be like should also be listed, well, who found it, and this should, and if I click on that item, it should give me the possibility, like there comes a page just for one item, and it tells me the details about the item, and then maybe a button like send message to the guy that posted this item to like claim it. So if we are looking at the found items here, there should be like a details button that opens a new page that only shows that item together with a little message field or something like that. Post message to the founder of the item, and I think we would approach it like that.
Okay. Yeah. So for now, let's not do any changes in the database, but I think guys might be curious about how we put the button in here and how we actually can, or a link. Yeah, because we're always talking about grids, how you can put buttons in grids, but we never talk about how we can make a list layer with a custom HTML here and have something inside there. Yeah. So yeah, let's add.
Link could lead to the page where only the item is shown, and we can get to the message stuff at a later hangout. But yeah, just include a list, a link to.
Okay, first of all, let me try to see if the page will work. Claim.
If I might suggest, I mean, I think your grid looks very nice, and I think it would be easier and nicer if you have a button on your grid that showing the page.
Yeah,
easier.
we could do either way.
Yeah.
I thought every item in the list, imagine a list with like, I don't know, 124 items, and in each row you have with each item you have a link to like the item itself, so you come to a page where you only see that item, and from there you can then do different things like sending a message to the guy that found it, or adding information like as a hint. Try find it there and there because there is this lost and found office.
Yeah. Well, for now,
like
let me show you how you can actually add a link, because the thing is, you probably can include the ID here. ID is the proper field, so there's a 4, 2, 1, but you can't really make a link. So I created a tag for the link, but there's no such field at the moment inside the model. And then it will be incorrect to have the link model as a field. So what we need to do inside of this, we need to introduce the way how for each column, of which entry, this link is generated. And the way how I would do it is by introducing a format row function. It's a standard function of lister, so I'll need to call the parent as well, and then the current row is an array we interact with, and yeah, link. For now, I'll just set to 1, 2, 3 to confirm that it works. And at the bottom it says 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Even if I do the inspect here, I will see 1, 2, 3 here. Great. I need to use an ID here. And there are two ways I can access the ID. First of all, I could do this current row ID. That's one way. And it says 4. But because some previously formatting could have already destroyed that thing, I can also access model, which like this, and I'm getting fresh data from the model which is being iterated inside this lister. That's
so, and the row ID, this ID is always like, it's not the number of the row itself, but it's the ID of the item that is shown in that row.
Yeah, that's the ID. Or we could do like this as well. It still works. Or it could be anything else with the model. I can even call maybe a method of that particular model, such as get full name or something. Doesn't matter. But in this case, we need a link. So I will go ahead and call API URL. The page I'd like user to go would be a sub page of our current page, and will be called claim. And I will need to pass an array, which should have.
Well, don't call it claim. Call it details or something like that, because claim would only be valid for lost items.
And ID here. Okay, so is it all clear how what I was doing here? I will. Oops. Yeah, I made a mistake. Always doing this mistake. Perfect. I'm going now to inspect to show you how this link looks like. Okay, so it goes to page items /list /details, and ID is 4. And you can see that it automatically figure out what to put before the ID. Right, and then you can build a new page there, and you would have something on the other end of that list. Okay, So I think that now if you're using lists, this is really important to know how you can add additional formatting or additional parameters in that role. Okay.
Yeah, well, at some point later we'll probably include like a picture of the item in this list, like a thumbnail, so I can look at it and make the thumbnail clickable as well, which would then again would bring me to the details list, but we can do that all at a later stage.
Okay, there was I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. Okay, so Imans was asking, let me answer Michael first. He was asking how can we have conditions in the template, or for example button only displayed is if it has not been claimed. The template engine in the Agile Toolkit is really simple. It can do only a couple of things. First of all, it can take a region like this one in here, name, and can set it to something else. Second, it could take a region of existing templates, such as this greeting, and copy that into new object. And finally, it can render itself, removing all the tags and simply displaying the output. So if we need to do any conditions, that would be outside of the template engine, so inside the PHP. We probably would need, if it's a complex like if then else something, we probably would need to have a couple of different templates which we can stick in, such as we might have one template for the item which have been claimed, and another template for the item which have not been claimed, and based on that we could display either one or another. But we're going a little bit into custom rendering and a custom manipulation with this template. So there's not any complex logic like in Smarty. Agile Toolkit has all the logic where it belongs, and it is inside the view inside PHP. Okay, I suppose that answers the question. So I have 4 taking master branch in GitHub, but it's not refreshing. Okay, so if you fork a repository in GitHub and some changes have been done to original, in order to pull those changes into your copy, well, what you can do is inside GitHub you can go into settings, set the original repository here, click on update, sync with that, and then switch back to your repository. I think that worked with me and Armin, but I have to say that GitHub is pretty basic on all of this stuff. You might want to look into some Git guide and how you can work on different multiple remotes in Git. Yeah, so you can define multiple remote locations. One would be the original Git, and second would be your repository. Okay, Evert has a nice link there. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think that should answer perfectly. Okay. Okay, any other questions about yeah, in the lost phone example you have type, and what if we allow the user also to enter a type himself, which will be added to the types. Okay, so you want user to be able to add the types if they're missing. I'm just thinking from the UI point of view, what would be the easiest? Of course, we could have some sort of a form which helps us add a new type, and then create a button. You click on the button, the form appears, he types in a new type, and then he's back. I can show you how it was done in one other project. Again, that's based on Agile Toolkit. It's an accounting software. Loading slowly in my computer. And here we operate with invoices, and again there's a requirement. So when I add a new invoice, I pick a customer from the list. But what if the customer is not on the list? This is autocomplete. I would click this plus button, type in the details of the new customer, belongs, save it in, and it appears in the selection here. You might have noticed that the field was reloaded after I clicked OK. Yeah, so the same thing is possible because this is built on Agile Toolkit. The same thing is possible to do in the vanilla Agile Toolkit as well. What you probably would need is to have a field, text field, with autocomplete, and you can attach the button to that field. Let me show you an example. The playground is a page which is included with all the Agile Toolkits, and it just has some of the formatting. So you probably would want a button like this, and you would want autocomplete in here. There were some discussions about how to do autocomplete, and I was throwing some examples as well. So you click the button, okay, and the new pop-up should come up with a simple form where you type in something. When you click OK, this frame closes and it reloads this field. Simple as that. And most of that functionality is present. You just need to connect the pieces. But this is probably the building of UI like that is a bit more advanced if you're just starting. But if you want me to show how it's done, we could do the one-on-one sessions later on and do that. Okay, Imant is asking, how do you normally create database in ATK4 tables models in situation with people? Ordinarily, there are many types of people in project: user, clients, owners, employees, and so on. Do you create table for person and related tables? Same with model, or better, don't create such shared person table? I have to say that in Agile Toolkit, all those possible configuration is possible. So you can have different tables for users and then model separate models, or you can have a single table with a flag, or as we did with items here. So that the item we had state could be item type as well, where you're able to select. You can also join depending on the type of the item. Again, Agile Toolkit allows you to join things. Okay, I want to check the documentation about that. Okay, so that's inside the section of understanding Agile Toolkit and API classes. There is a section called multiple interface APIs. And no, sorry, I'm misleading. That's not it. Yeah, I think yeah, this is the right page. So understanding Agile Toolkit models, and then building model structure can give you a little bit some hints how to organize a database. So we have a standard organic database such as blog, comment, and user, which probably we're using right now. And again, data is isolation. If we have multiple users working with the database, we might need to set something like a system ID here. So if we create a separate kind of small environments for different users on our system, and all the data which belongs to that user would have a system ID in there, so linked against a single system. So, and Agile Toolkit allows to do that with conditions. So all in this case, we can extend the model table and define a really hard dependency on system ID on the model level, and then all the other models would extend from this our custom model instead of model table, and they will be nailed to the system. Okay, here's how we can build access control lists. So user, document, and user is able to access document. And then this is an object database. So this is answering Iman's question when we have kind of object, a table for the message, and then there are a couple of types of messages. So message could have text, or could have a link inside it, or could have a file, similar to what you would have with the users. And then if it's a text message, it could have additional field like this. In this situation, we are extending the message class, and we're adding additional joins in here. So many different scenarios is possible, and Agile Toolkit tries to accommodate for all the possible architectures. Yeah.
Romans.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Armin, for delaying you. And
no, that's fine. I'll be back at like in 3/4 of an hour for our personal hang on.
Okay. Yeah.
Hang on. So thanks everybody for joining in. I'm leaving. See you next time. Bye.
Okay.